You know, I was watching Angry Man's coverage of his tribute to Stan Lee. It was very touching. It was probably the most touching tribute I've heard of any well-known celebrity in a long time. But that one was really touching. And I have to give a shout out to Angry Man for that. It had me in tears. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but this is DJ Wolf Live. All right, guys and gals. I watched the coverage of an Angry Man's tribute to the legendary, late great Stan Lee, the founding father of Marvel Comics. This is a guy whose comic books I've been reading for over 50 years. You know, I watched many of his comic books come to life, starting with Spider-Man, the first major series he ever had for any comic book character, because Spider-Man was so wildly popular. In 1967, ABC decided to bring it to television as a half-hour Saturday morning cartoon series. And I can honestly say, for me, during my childhood, during that time period, and really now, because I got the entire Spider-Man collection as far as the television series, I think was one of the greatest animated action cartoon crime series I've ever seen. I still say that. That thing was badass. Okay, the animation wasn't the great. I think it was decent, though. Could have been a little bit better, yeah. But, the action was crazy. That's what I'm saying. The storyline and the action sequences was like nothing I've ever seen on television before. It was very intense. Especially for a cartoon series. It was very intense. Like this, I put it up there with Johnny Quest. But I had to bring that up because Stan Lee, to me, was one of the most, and I'm going to piggyback on what Angry Man said a little bit. Stan Lee was one of the most diversified comic book auteurs that I've ever read from. He was that. He embodied that. He wasn't a guy who just wrote comic books. He wrote comic books that dealt with the human spirit and the humanity of humans itself. You know, not just about superheroes. Just like I told somebody last week, a lot of people, who view fans of The Walking Dead is just watching it to watch people kill zombies. But it's not about that. If you watch The Walking Dead, I forgot the writer's name. But anyway, he didn't write The Walking Dead to be just about zombies. He wrote it to challenge the human spirit. The same thing that Stan Lee did through his comics. Stan Lee was the first comic book publisher to publish the first black superhero characters ever. The first known of them anyway. It was three. It was three that he put out between 1960s, I think in the early 60s, all the way to 1972, which was in succession: The Falcon, Black Panther, and my all-time favorite, Luke Cage, also known as Power Man. To me, they had an indelible mark on me as a young 8-year-old when I started reading it. Although it was a little bit on the stereotypical side, I'll say that. But one thing that Angry Man did point out about Black Panther, which was incredible, he wasn't a stereotype. He wasn't a thug. He wasn't a criminal. He was a king. I'll give him that. He wasn't a dope fiend. He was a king. In other words, he didn't make him to be out just the typical, brother. He was somebody had something going on, and I'll give him that. Luke Cage, on the other hand, now I'm not really that familiar with the Falcon's history. I think Falcon was the military guy. As far as I know, I didn't read Falcon much. But Luke Cage, and he was the sidekick of Captain America on top of that. Luke Cage was a guy who was, I think he was a former lawman, and he was framed for a crime that he didn't commit. That's how he got sent to jail, and they experimented on his body to make his body bulletproof. And that's how he became Power Man. But even with that was kind of a stereotypical, but not really. But it wasn't. But it was. But it was truth to it, you know. And even with that, Luke Cage was an upstanding guy. If you watch the series and read his comic books, it was all about that. You know, it was all about that. So the black guys that he did portray in his comic books really were not the stereotypical black guys. You know, for the most part. Now, a couple things that Luke Cage was taking liberty of like that in terms of the language, the language back in the day, the lingo. That's how brothers did talk back then, you know. But other than that, it pretty much was the same kind of. Let's put it like this: he made them not weak black men, but they were written as strong male black characters. You know, particularly Luke Cage. The only thing about Luke Cage, I didn't like the fact that they teamed him up with a white guy. Who do you come for? That was the only thing about it that I didn't like, because, you know, that's when I had problems. I actually stopped reading not long after that. But that's another whole story. But otherwise, Luke Cage was, the way it was well written. You know. But it did make me think a lot about Stan Lee. Stan Lee actually, he built the empire. Or rebuilt the empire, the comic book empire. I always thought that Marvel Comics actually outshined DC Comics for years. I don't even know who's the head of DC Comics. I don't know who ever was the head of DC Comics, to tell you the truth. But with Marvel, you always knew Stan Lee was behind it. You know, I used to always refer Stan Lee as to Walt Disney. To what Walt Disney was to animation, I refer Stan Lee to comic books. And ironically, Disney eventually bought out Marvel. Marvel Entertainment, you know, which is also called MCP, the Marvel. Was it what? No, maybe I'm phrasing it wrong. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCP. I'm sorry. But it's incredible. The last movie Marvel film I saw was not the TV show, but the last Marvel film I saw was the Avengers, not Age of Ultron, so when it just came out, Infinity War. That was incredible. I don't care what anybody says. That was incredible. That might be one of the best Marvel movies outside of Black Panther that I've ever seen. Black Panther was totally incredible. Great film, great acting, great cast. Including my girl from Denai, plays on Walking Dead. She had a big role in that. When I heard she won People's Choice Awards recently. Matter of fact, her and Chadwick Boseman, who played the lead role of Black Panther, both won. They should have. They were two of the among the best actors in the movie. There was a lot of great actors in the movie overall. It should have won Best Film, period, because it was that good. Yeah. So soundtrack was crazy too. So, but I'm glad that. But you can say that Stan Lee, you know, he didn't go out like no sucker. He went out on top. He went out like a gangster, man. As far as I'm concerned, the baddest guy one of the greatest comic book creators. He will be known as one of the groundbreaking comic book creators of all time. There's no doubt about that. Groundbreaking, and I do mean groundbreaking with a capital G, because he was that. His films broke office records. It's comic books that should have shattered records. You know, his television, many of his television series based on comic books have been highly successful. One of them was the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that was on ABC for a number of years. And I don't even know. I don't think it's on now. I think it might have got canceled, but it was on for a while. You know, that's a prime example. Really? What the hell is he doing? He wasn't supposed to stop there, no, you asshole. Jeez, always something with these people, man. He stopped in the middle of there, made a freaking U-turn. He wasn't even supposed to make a U-turn there. Damn it. Always something. Well, anyway, I may do a live podcast. I don't know. There's so much to talk about with Stan Lee. I could go on for days talking about Stan Lee's history. And I actually might do that. You never know. This is DJ Wolf. I'm out.